Today is June the 8th, 1987, and we are all here in the family room at 8705 New York to run through about 4 boxes of some antique snapshots from through the years and put them on the VCR tape so perhaps everybody can enjoy them. We have many relatives here. It just happens this weekend was the weekend that Norma and Tom were married, and all the kids are home for our wedding, and we've had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. In the room with us is Cheryl Ann and TG.
Gotta get a shot of Sherry. Bend backwards.
And next to me is Brown Eyes, better known as Donna Mary. And back there in the back is pretty girl, Norma Jean. And right next to Norma, sitting on the floor, is Laura Ann. Beautiful little Laura Ann. And there's Deborah, who's recovering from a serious neck operation.
Hiding.
Had 2 vertebrae fused together, and she come back for the wedding, and we're very fortunate to have her and her children here. Greg couldn't make it. He's closing Safeway stores in Houston, Texas. And we hope many years down the road that all of you will enjoy this little project that we're going to try to do for you this evening.
See how I look tonight here.
Deal of effort into it. There's TG. Hi, TG.
Can't get it far enough away.
All right. Well, let's get this project underway, TG.
All right, push the button.
You're going home back to Nashville early in the morning.
Are you ready?
That's the photo album Tom B. purchased when he was 12 years old while on a trip to Denver, Colorado with some neighbors. Probably cost 50 cents and almost made me sick. I shopped all morning for it to spend that 50 cents because during those years in the 30s money was awful close. This is just a snapshot inside the little Denver visit photo. It looks like the side of a mountain coming down there. This little area we went to where children played and got on dummy horses and so forth, and showed they'd been out west. There's a little village and had a little miniature train that ran all around it, and the Irwins, who was my neighbors that took me on this trip when I was 12, took me out here to entertain me for the day, and we had a little picnic there. The man that we went to visit was building the Banker's Life building as a steel worker, and the scaffolding went down. He was, well, this is Mrs. Irwin on the right, and I think the lady on the left, I believe their names were Tufts. And that's Tom B. right there, and I was 12. And Mr. Tuff went down with the scaffolding, and everybody on the scaffolding was killed on the Banker's Life building. I think 7, 8 men were killed, and he was the only one that lived. Broke every bone in his body, and the Arthur Newman Company sent him to Colorado, bought him a lot, built him a house, and he lived there the rest of his life, very crippled until he died. But that was quite an experience for me as a young man. I had never been out of Des Moines up until that time. That's it, Tom. This is Arnie, Bill, and Fran on a running board of Dad's car. I can't begin to guess what year that might have been, but that would either be in East Des Moines, Colfax, or Newton, because that's the only 2 areas we ever knew when we were children. This is just a postcard of an old mine that I had sent to my mother and father in Sparks, Nevada, when I was a chiropractor in Reno. I worked evenings in Sparks, Nevada for an old-time chiropractor there, helping him 3 or 4 hours each evening, twice a week. This was my business card with evidently a little gravy on it that I used when I was practicing chiropractic approximately 4 years when I was a very young man in Reno, Nevada. A little bit more of the Denver, Colorado area I visited when I was 12. Once again, this picture.
Who are these people?
Well, that's the Irwins and the Tufts from Des Moines. And that's all I can remember. I believe the house up in the back was the home that was built for this man that was injured so seriously building the Banker's Life building. A little closer view of evidently some very rocky mountains in the Colorado area. There, that's a lot.
This is parts of the album. We'll just flip through some. Oh, no, wrong.
That's a birthday card there, Tom, if you want to slip it back under. It was from my mother and father, evidently when I was about this age, 12 years old. They had written on the inside of it, "Good boy, Tom."
One more here.
right there. Mama and Dad.
These are more shots from that album.
More shots from the Colorado album. This is Myrtle Gardner and Ray Gardner, Virginia's mother and father. This is in the backyard of Daisy, Aunt Daisy Lysett's home on East 13th Street in Des Moines, Iowa. And I had come home from my first furlough after basic training. And on the left is my mom, and on the right is my dad. This was a picture of Virginia when she was very young. I think time this was taken, she was going to AIB. She attended AIB with Mickey Knorr, by the way. Another view of Virginia. Another shot of Jenny. Well, this was the wedding day of Tom B. and Virginia. On the left is my mother, and on the right's my dad. I don't remember what anniversary this was, but it was an anniversary dinner for my mother and father, and it was quite a day. This is what has always been known as my little sister. This is Mary Lou, and this was obviously her graduation photograph from East High School in East Des Moines. This is the base of the altar of Tom and Jenny's marriage at St. Joseph's Catholic Church, East 33rd and Easton. And then down the aisle, my mother and father, Arnold and Carrie. Evidently they were beginning to get a little bit older there. This is my mother and father's home, their dining room, and once again, I think this was the anniversary dinner for my mother and dad, but I can't remember which one it was, I'm sorry. Glamour shot of Virginia. This is Virginia and Tom, and I can't begin to guess what year that might have been.
In New York?
For many years after my mother and father passed away, we continued our Christmas dinners, and we had them at the Commodore Hotel, and we had them at the Des Moines Airport, and we had them at several big restaurants, and we had them in our private homes. And of course, Arnie was always kind of the ham and showed off a little bit and was an extremely funny man.
That says December 1965.
This Arnie is my oldest brother. The man on the left is Arnie's next brother, Bill. This is in Reno, Nevada, and on the left is my cousin Verna, and in the middle is her husband John, and that's Tom B. on the right. And we were up at Lake Tahoe. They had a cottage at Lake Tahoe. Oh, I beg your pardon. In the middle, that's her father-in-law, Heine Cooper. That's not her husband. That was John's dad. And they had a cottage up at Lake Tahoe, and we used to go up there frequently for the weekend, and they used to have a lot of theme parties. I can't imagine what theme this is, but there were quite a few Bloody Marys passed around up there. I remember that.
September
On the
1954.
left, what year is that, Tom?
September 54.
September 54. On the left is my Aunt Frances, then my father Arnold, and then his sister from Neola, Margaret, and then on the right is my Aunt Daisy, who was the oldest of all the Liddell family, and a wonderful, wonderful lady. You better pass on that, Tom. I can't tell you what that is. This is my brother Joe on the left and his wife Darlene, and on the right is Jack Berzicott, who is a close buddy of Joe's and ran around with him all the time in high school, and later became a captain on the Des Moines Fire Department and attended a lot of the Liddell functions and was a very fine gentleman.
55.
May 1955. In the upper left-hand corner is my Aunt Daisy, and to the right of her is my mother, Carrie, and then my dad, Arnold, and in the front is Margaret Lysett, later Free, and on the right of her is Jim Free, her husband. He was worked for the United States Post Office here. Well, that's my brother Joe, and I don't know what he's attempting to interpret there. It looks like he has boots on. He was in Korea during the Korean War. That's Virginia there, and I don't know what must be talking long distance somebody. And that's Darlene, and I think that's one of the famous sectionals that came from Liddell Brothers Furniture, that some factory dyed black and later started turning pink. And that's Frieda Bayliss. That's Neil Bayliss's mom, and she lived with Neil and Mary Lou for many, many years and was a good old soul, and looked after all those little kids and cooked and made the world's greatest sweet rolls. Frieda was a very fine lady. Once again, this is Frieda Bayliss. Frieda became a very dear friend of my mother. My mother and Frieda were real good friends. Frieda was a fine person. This is my younger brother Joe trying to look like Bing Crosby. Well, there's Mary Lou, and it was either a Christmas gift or she was just been awarded Miss America. I don't know which. I don't know who this is, but looks like a nice wedding. I'm half passing this. I can't figure it out. This is Jenny, and I think that's Denise. In the very left-hand corner in the wine shirt, that's Tom Liddell when he was a chiropractor. And next to him is a girl named Evelyn that I dated many years when I was in Reno.
Wait a minute, which one?
And next to Evelyn is Fran Liddell.
Let's see, is this
Clara.
That's
and
Fran?
They had come to Reno to visit me, and the Cooper family, who my cousin Verna was married into, kind of had a little picnic and a get-together, and they were very nice to all of us.
Debbie's in here, and all the chuck in the background is Debbie had too many beans for dinner tonight. And is collapsing on the floor. Some of these pictures are going to be a little more yellow than they were when we started this. I don't.
Let's go on.
Stop
This
it.
is kind of fun. Can't tell you who this is, but there's another piece of furniture from Liddell Brothers. On the left is one of my aunts, in the middle is my mother, and on the right is Mary Lou. September 1954, the snapshot was made. This is my cousin Verna Jones, who was married to John Cooper in Reno, Nevada. To the left of her is Tom Liddell, and that's when I was a chiropractor in Reno. And we was up in Squaw Valley for the day watching them ski in the mountains, and we had many hot buttered rums up there that day. This is Joe Edwards when he was in the Navy in World War II. I think he was stationed around Corpus Christi, and Joe was a radio man, the gunner on a PBY airplane, and saw a lot of action in World War II.
Cruise on my.
This is in Reno, Nevada when I was a chiropractor, and to the left of me is my cousin Verna. And we used to go up to Lake Tahoe a great deal on weekends, her husband and me, and all of her in-laws. We had a lot of good times up at Lake Tahoe, and this is their dock out over Lake Tahoe. Each Christmas after my mother and father passed away, we had Christmas dinners, and this is one of the snapshots of the family after dinner. And it's Fran on the left, and of course myself, Tom B. And then in the middle is Bill. The little short guy looked like Lou Costello. That's my oldest brother, Arnie. And on the right is my youngest brother, Joe. And then there in the middle, once again, is my little sister, Mary Lou. I think this is at the inauguration, Washington, D.C. of Lyndon Johnson. More of the caravan of the inauguration of Lyndon Johnson. You have more of those, Tom. Just move through them because a lot of them are just exactly alike.
No.
Francis was in 95th Division. He played in the band in 95th Division during World War II, and that's him down the far right-hand corner. And I don't know who the other soldiers are. Fran, probably they were buddies of his. Go ahead, Tom. Next. This is friends of mine in Reno, Nevada, and I was a godfather for this lady's baby. Her husband was a high school coach, and the people on the man on the left, the lady on the right, were in-laws to John and Verna Cooper, and this was when I was a chiropractor in Reno, Nevada. Look at that double-breasted suit. That's back in style now. Can you believe that? I don't know who this is, Tom.
Mickey.
I don't think so. And Debbie seemed to think that was Mickey. Well, I don't know who this is, but I think he stayed a little too long. I had a very good friend in chiropractic school named Jim Odom, and Jim practiced chiropractic for many years in Danville, Illinois. And this on the left is his wife and his little baby. I don't know who the lady is on the right. They later moved to Boulder City, Nevada, and he practiced chiropractic in Boulder City, Nevada. He later became a very active in the Mormon Church, become a deacon, and stopped practicing chiropractor and devoted his whole life to religion. He was my roommate at Mrs. Sam's in Davenport, Iowa, while we were in chiropractic school. Tom, why don't you move this on? I think somebody from the East Des Moines Theater threw this one in. This is during World War II in Camp McCall, North Carolina, where I took my basic training in the glider troops and then later in the paratroopers. This is my younger brother Joe, and he served in the Army during the Korean War. And he was in Korea quite some time, I think a little over a year. This is Joe and Marge Edwards, and if I remember correctly, they were going to attend some kind of a big United Airlines function. Joe was an employee of United Airlines. Hope I'm right on that. My little sister Mary Lou. This is an entertainment tent to the troops in World War II. I'm not real sure, but one time Marlene Dietrich come out in the middle of France and entertained a whole bunch of us. But I didn't ever remember seeing a snapshot of it, but this could be it. We had many parties in our backyard when we lived at 62nd and Sherrick Avenue, and this was one of the parties that we held in our backyard. That gentleman that has his arm up there, his name was Gene Sherrod, and the guy with his back to us there, that's Bill Coach. They both, two brothers lived across the street from us, Bill Coach and Lee Coach. But we had some gangbuster parties there at that patio on 62nd and Sherrick. Evidently, this is a snapshot of Joe's from the Korean War. And that's a swing band there of Joe's. He called it a swing band. Looks like Joe Liddell. On the left, Mary Lou, then Arnie, Tom Liddell, Carrie Liddell, Darlene Liddell, Joe Liddell, and Arnold Liddell Sr. Darlene's maiden name was Lloyd. Her folks' name was Carrie's middle name. My mother's middle name was Brown, the same as mine, Thomas Brown Liddell. This is my Aunt Zora from Newton, Iowa. Stopped at our house one time. I believe this one, her husband was real ill one time. She come and stayed a few nights with us, and she's holding our twins. This is a cousin of mine. His name is George Hunter. He's dead now. And he was followed the carnivals and run novelty stands, and better known as a con man. This is 1942, and I graduated from East High School. And the guy on the right-hand side with the double-breasted suit is me, Tom B. Liddell, and that's East High School. The guy on the left of me is Bob Brackett. The man behind him is Dick Allen. And the one girl in front of me, her name is Alice Bunce, but I can't remember the other girl's name. But this was our graduation day, and I had this during the Depression years, but I played in a band for $1 a night on Saturday nights. I sold shoes at Winnick's department store on Saturday, and I made a couple dollars other places and so forth. I averaged $5, $6 a week, and I was able to buy a new suit for my graduation. I was quite wealthy, making $5, $6 a week. Well, I'm really guessing on this one, but I think this is my mother, my Aunt Jessie, my Aunt Logia, and my Aunt Zora. Those are the Bell sisters, and my grandfather's name was John Bell.
From left to right.
And I can't tell you from left to right which one's which, but that's the Bell sisters. I just about bet $1 on that one. Well, this is my slip that sent me back home after World War II. I served in the 17th Airborne Division and the Glider and Paratroop Division, and after the war ended, I later was transferred into the 82nd Airborne Division and went to Berlin on guard duty for a couple of months before I was sent home. And I came home on the Queen Mary, and that was the biggest ship on the ocean at that time, and they had converted it to a troop ship to bring all the soldiers home. Later, after arriving in New York, the 82nd Airborne Division was picked as the parade division to march down Broadway and Fifth Avenue in what is known as the Victory Parade. And this was the ticker tape parade of World War II. And as I was going down Broadway and Fifth Avenue, somebody in the crowd, believe it or not, yelled and screamed and hollered Liddell. I never did figure out who it was or know, but I was in the service with many men that were from the New York area. The regiment I went overseas with was 167, and 37 of us come home, so there could have been one of my buddies that had been wounded earlier and come home earlier, but this was quite a day to come home in a Queen Mary. They even set bunk beds up in the former swimming pool to get us all home. On the left in the back row is my older brother Arnie. To the right of him is Tom Liddell, my uncle, who at that time lived in San Francisco area. Tom was a very small man and was also very funny. To the right of him was Bill Liddell, and to the right of him was William Thomas Liddell, who later became an attorney in Houston, Texas. Front row on the left is my dad Arnold. In the middle there is my brother Fran, and to the right of Fran is my brother Joe. My Uncle Tom and my dad, when they were young guys, I understand they were quite the singers. Father McCann one time from Newton, Iowa told me that they were the two best singers in the choir and they absolutely made the church vibrate, but he said they were ornery devils on Saturday night. Local sports announcer Jim Zabel had a bowling program on Sunday mornings, and he talked us into giving a free color television to the first three. That's him right there. The first 300 bowler, and never in 3 years did anybody ever won the major prize. And for doing this, we got free advertising, and he practically assured us that we would never ever have to present this very expensive color television set. And the first Sunday we was on, some gal bowled 300 and we lost our television set. And to the right of, because RCA donated half of it, Liddell Brothers Furniture donated half of it, to the right of me is Jack Kelly and a guy named Andy, who were TV technicians for the RCA service company, and they had them come down the pier because they wanted to get some publicity out of it also. This is Tom Liddell here after many years of steaks, and well, Debbie told our neighbor one time that after Mom and Dad put us kids to sleep, they eat steaks and drink whiskey, and look what it does to you folks. This is Arnie's daughter, Linda Kay, in her graduation picture. Well, I evidently got an awful nice gift that year. I think this was Virginia had a cake decorating business in her home, and she did many different cakes for different people, and this was made for a guy that built houses, a home builder, and they were honoring him at the Home Builders Association for something, so she made a cake and it looked like a house. Oh, as a matter of fact, it was his house. She went over to his home and drew it out on a piece of paper and then come back and made a cake. This is Tommy Liddell, William Thomas Liddell, Bill's boy, in his graduation picture from high school. I have no idea which baby this is, but I'll tell you where the sofa come from. The sofa came from Ted Starkey's furniture store at 28th and Forest Avenue. We paid $35 for it, sat on it for 3 years, and sold it for $35. Once again, part of the cake business that Virginia got into. She did a lot of cakes for a lot of relatives that they all wanted to top each other, and this is evidently somebody that really wanted to top somebody. Well, my brother Bill was in the food business and had demonstrators who worked in grocery stores and so forth. And I think this is one of his displays. He sold packaged meats and specialty priced cookies and so forth. And I think these ladies was demonstrating one of his items in a supermarket. I can't tell who that is, but it says Phyllis at the bottom of the picture. Well, I see now it's Virginia's roommate, but I can't tell you which girl it is. I think this is Maxine Lefebvre, Jenny's older sister, and her boy Bobby. This was one of Jenny's roommates during the AIB era, and a boyfriend had come. Michelle Liddell, daughter of Fran and Clara. This is Grandpa and Grandma Hunt, and Grandpa and Grandma Liddell, and Denise and daughter of Tom and Jenny's, and Michelle Liddell, daughter of Fran and Clara Liddell. Grandpa and Grandma Hunt was Clara's mother and father. This is Cheryl Plum, daughter of Chuck Plum, an old family friend of my mother and dad's, and he later remodeled our cottage at Clear Lake and took the garage at Clear Lake and made a small cottage out of it, and it was later named the Converto. And this is Cheryl, his daughter. This is Hal Moore, a KIOA disc jockey, interviewing Susie Liddell, and either later at this time, I don't know which, he married Linda Kay Liddell, Arnie Liddell's daughter. Arnie and Peg's daughter. Had to pass on that one, Tom. Well, obviously, this is a bicycle certificate that was issued to Mary Lou Liddell. 3801 Easton is where we were all born and raised, and we were born and raised in a home behind my dad's corner grocery store at 3801 Easton Boulevard. I can't tell you what that is, Tom. It must have been part of the cake decorating year. Appears to be Jenny, but it could be Marge. They look quite a bit alike there for a while. Mary Lou. This is Eleanor Willis, who lived next door to us on Sherry. Her husband's name was Gene, and he used to tease me terrible about all my children. We used to load up bushel baskets of diapers and head for Panora for the farm, and he'd stick his head out the window. We would be going there just for Sunday dinner, and he'd say, "How many weeks are you going to be gone, Tom?" Because we loaded up so many diapers and basketfuls of clothes just to go for the day. Later, he was transferred to Chicago, and he called us one day, and he says, "Well, Tom and Virginia, you'll never believe what happened to us. We had twins." And I told him the reason he had twins was for sticking his head out the window and needling us all those years. This is Julia Lysa, Aunt Daisy's daughter, but I don't know who the smaller person is. This was a Christ-like statue in a church in Puerto Rico, and during the Great Parade Day and the celebration of the High Holy Days there, this statue is taken out and put on a carrier-like thing and carried through and paraded through the city of San Juan and prayed over, and it's a big holy day for the Catholic Church. This is the interior of the Puerto Rican church in San Juan where the statue was that you just seen. Well, there's Tom Liddell, and this was on one of our trips. I think this was the inauguration. Oh, I beg your pardon. This is San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we had a formal night where everybody had to wear tuxes and white dinner jackets. And this is Virginia in the same hotel room. We're getting ready to go to on the factory trips, the final nights were always grand nights. That's the nights that everybody put their best on and went and had the biggest party. This is in the backwoods of Puerto Rico where the natives made different items. And a teacher at Dowling High School, her sister was the head of all of the Girl Scouts in Puerto Rico. And this lady come to the hotel and picked Virginia up, took her back into the backwoods of Puerto Rico and introduced her to all the natives and so forth. She come home with a taxi full of gifts, and here are the gifts back home from Puerto Rico that cost Virginia 50 cents and 75 cents and $1. In the hotel lobbies they were $10 and $12 and $15. Once again in Puerto Rico, and this is the Great White Beach of San Juan. This is the El San Juan Hotel in Puerto Rico. This once again is the enormous park there by the Great White Sand Beach, more of the White Sand Beach. We also went from this beach up into the rainforest. At night they had mini beach type parties, and we did the gadget where you go into the bar and everything, but that was after many Mai Tais and so forth.
You drank?
A little bit.
A lot. Grain milk.
Oh, I don't know what this is here, but it was part of the trip too. And this was a visit up into the mountains and the islands there. I don't think that was Puerto Rico.
We were there just recently, and it still looks just like this.
Is that right? Yeah, I guess that is a street in Puerto Rico. Yeah, there's Harold Mick from Albia of Iowa. He run an appliance, TV, and furniture store in Albia. And this is the beach out in front of the hotel where you laid on your rusty dusty and got a good tan. Swimming pool at the hotel. It was a nice trip. This is Fort El Morro outside of San Juan. It sits at the very peak and at the edge of the ocean. It sits up high, and this is where the Spaniards attacked Puerto Rico and attempted to take the isle back, and they shot them back and bolted them with the boulder type cannons right off the walls.
Here's one of the guards at the castle.
We were waiting for the buses to go to the airport to come back home, and I want to tell you that was an exhausting trip. That man on the right there is Cliff Morgan, and he was a sales manager for Seidel's company RCA at that time. streets of San Juan, sidewalks of San Juan, trees of San Juan, flowers of San Juan, a hand in San Juan,
chairs of San Juan,
many drinks in San Juan,
more
drinks in San Juan. Oh, on the left there's a man named Dick Reed, and just recently I closed a store in Nevada, Iowa called Erickson's Furniture, and he come walking in the front door and he's still selling RCAs. There's a statue in one of the churches in San Juan. It was beautiful. Oh, this is a bar that was out by the ocean, and we had frequent business meetings at this area. And this is a, oh, I can't remember what they call these bands. They play in the barrels and everything, and the darndest sounds and music's come out of them you ever heard in your life. And this was one of our tours around the island. Okay, earlier I told you about the teacher at Dowling whose sister was the head of Girl Scouts in Puerto Rico. Well, it's a picture of a little brownie troop in Puerto Rico in which she gathered together for a photo for. It says on this picture, Mom, 2 months old.
It says, it looks like it says Laura, Virginia.
Laura, Virginia.
On the farm.
On the farm.
I guess it's Grandma holding it.
Must be Grandma Gardner.
Does it look like Grandma's farm?
Myrtle Gardner. Well, that would be before my time, I'll guarantee you. This is Reno, Nevada, at Squaw Valley. That's Tom Liddell on the left and his cousin Verna on the right.
Sure, that's your cousin.
We were throwing a lot. We were throwing a lot of snowballs and drinking rum up there that day. It's a baptismal that I was a godfather for in Reno, Nevada. This is a gang of people in Reno. It was my friend down the lower right-hand corner with the big polka dot shirt on is John Cooper, who was married to my cousin Verna. Over on the left, the bottom, is his dad, Heine, who was a good friend of Bill Hara that run Hara's Club. And Heine and Bill Hara later got me a job dealing roulette in Hara's Club in Reno. And the reason I was hired was that Mr. Hara originally came from Newton, Iowa.
This is Donna, right? That's you? That's Donna. And she looks like my Katie. That's Debbie. She looks like her Stacy. That's Denise. She looks like her Jenny. That's Diane. She looks like Johnny. Her Johnny. And that little nerd right there, I don't know who he is. Fat Tom and Pretty Jenny.
This is Tom Liddell in Reno, Nevada with his cousin Verna. Squaw Valley. Marvin Dilworth, Tom McClaskey, and Joe Liddell. Mary Lou, Peg, my mom, Carrie, Darlene. Looks like that might be Clara there. I'm not positive, and I think that's Aunt Jessie on the right. And I'm not
Probably
real
holding Tommy.
positive of any of these things. This is my cousin from Newton, Iowa, Moselle Simpson. She's now passed away. This is Virginia, Marge, and Fran. This is Marjorie Gardner, later Marjorie Edwards, hamming it up. Jenny was in the cake decorating business for a long time, did a beautiful cake, and got many phone calls and thank yous. Just a little note from one of her customers.
And a picture.
And a picture on the back, and this happened frequently. This is my cousin, Berna Jones. She later became Berna Cooper. This is Grandma Gardner's farm, where we had some enormous dinners, sometimes as high as 4 and 5 different kinds of pies.
Is that Grandma?
This is at 3209 Easton Boulevard, across from Grandview Park. On the left is Peg Liddell, Arnie's wife. In the middle is Mary Lou. On the right's my mother. And down below is Linda Kay. This was a beautiful old 2-story home that I really loved. Joe Liddell, June 2nd, 1948. You know, this is that same show, and I said earlier it might be Marlene Dietrich. That isn't true. This must be in Korea. This must have been when Joe was in service in Korea. Joe Liddell. It must have been about the same era, 1948. A bit about it.
Send this card to us from your honeymoon
With Norman
in Las
G.
Vegas. This card hasn't been used yet, so you'll be able to send us this postcard. Take this with you when you get on your honeymoon this week. You can mail it to us.
threw some antique pictures here, and Tommy's getting smart with Norma Jean and me. He wants us to use up this old card from 30 years ago because we're going to Las Vegas on our honeymoon and raise holy heck. This is the raising the Stars and Stripes on Iwo Jima during World War II, and probably was the most dramatic event of World War II. This is the largest bronze sculpture in the world. It was dedicated in 1954. This is some early artwork of Tom G. Liddell's. He never did turn out to be an artist. Oh, this was a new and rebuilt church, St. Joseph's, Des Moines, Iowa. There was a fire there and the entire church burned down. I think this is the new rebuilt church here. I think this is Eileen and William Thomas Liddell, and on the right, my older brother Arnie. Joe Liddell and Darlene. This is when Joe was in the service during the Korean War. This is Bobby Lefebvre, son of Maxine Lefebvre, Jenny's oldest sister. This is a relative of Jenny's from Minneapolis, but I can't remember the name. Sorry about that. Joey and Susie Liddell, children of Joe and Darlene Liddell. This is Tom Liddell with his Al Capone vest on. It's September 1962, and that's Dallas Williams in his boat. And I think on the left and the back is his wife. And on the right there, it looks like T.G. Liddell to me.
Leave it running, we got more of the same.
Yeah, that's Dallas Williams. Dallas Williams. This is at Clear Lake, Iowa.
That could be Dallas's son.
Might be Dallas's
Because this was
boy.
September 1962, and I
His name was Dennis.
I would have only been 4.
Oh, I remember Dallas's wife's name now, Darlene. This is Jenny and Tom, and I don't know which girls, and I had taken Bill Liddell's van up to Clear Lake to load up a bunch of things to bring home after the end of the summer. And that's all of our children right there. That's TG's there on my right arm. It's a shame he was always so bashful.
You can't tell who's here.
Diane in front with
Point
the
out
fishing
who's
net.
here.
That's Diane with a butterfly net, and Debbie and Donna, and I think behind those two elbows is TG, and that's Jenny.
It's my head, my typical haircut.
Now there's Tom with his wavy curly hair.
And Gail Crab?
Gail Krabs, I think.
Gail Crab.
Denise Liddell, September 1966.
Darlene.
Eileen and Mary Lou, and I believe this picture was taken at
Tommy's
the
wedding, wasn't it?
Tommy's wedding in Chicago, I
January
think.
63.
I think. And I believe once again this is a part of Tommy's wedding in Chicago. That's William Thomas Liddell.
Okay, come on, primary.
Oh, this is President Kennedy's grave, and when it was first committed in Washington, D.C., and later it was completely revamped. But this was immediately after his assassination, and they had the light burning at that time.
I mean, Uncle Bill.
There's Bill Liddell and Tommy and Eileen, and I think it's Mary on the right there. I think that's Ann in front, and probably Mary Beth on the right, and Joey Liddell. I can't tell all of them.
That's me on the right.
Is that Tommy?
Yeah.
Well, it must have been a Christmas dinner or something.
Who's at the boat club?
This is William Thomas Liddell and Eileen and my brother Bill, and I believe this is at the boat club. We had a Christmas family dinner down there one year. This may have been that Christmas family dinner we had. I can't tell you what this is. One of the famous clown cakes that Jenny used to make,
Yes,
and
it's in the paper.
kids' birthday,
It
but
was Debbie and Diane's birthday.
Debbie and Diane's birthday, but I can't remember. I think that's at the house on Sherrick. Looks.
There's an article.
You can pass on this. I can't tell you who it is. Tom, it's okay. This is AIB during the AIB area for Mickey and Jenny. This is boyfriends and girls arriving and going there. I'm not familiar with the people. What in goodness gracious sakes is this?
That's Mom in the tub.
That's Mom in the tub.
Where was the tub?
Well, let's move on, Tom. Nap time. This is, I think, the Jess and Nell, Joe and Marge and Jenny. This is Cheryl Christensen. Dale and Evelyn Christensen lived across the street from us, 62nd and Sherrick Avenue. Jenny and somebody, Tommy. During this era, this was called cheesecake. It's eating time. More cheesecake. Boy, there were a lot of poses in those days. This was before my time. Move on, Tom. This was at Tommy and Margie's wedding in Chicago. John on the left, and Eileen and Tommy and Margie.
Okay, I think for the record we should. Debbie stepped on Donna's toe.
All the noise you hear is Deborah got up to go to the bathroom and stepped on Donna's big toe and drew blood. Marcy. Mickey, Nora, and a couple of her girlfriends. Pose time. It's Jenny. September 1968. It's Paul and Jody and Jerry. I think they're in our old aluminum john boat out on Lake Hallis across from our house. More posing. Joe Edwards and Marge Edwards, and I think that's Joe's folks there. Joe Edwards and friends. AIB era. Tom Liddell, Tom G. Liddell, my dad Arnold Liddell, Debbie, Diane, Donna, Denise. Class of 1944. I think this is Jenny. Grandma Myrtle Gardner.
Mom.
This is a reunion of a bunch of ladies that all went to AIB together, and Jenny's on the left. This is a reunion of some of the AIB students. Last Easter, 1959, it says on this picture. This is Thomas B. Liddell's graduation picture.
The black and white.
June 1942, Thomas B. Liddell graduated from East High School. June 1942, graduation picture of Thomas B. Liddell.
Is this a colorized photo?
This is what they used to call tinted. And there were people, their occupation was to tint photos.
This isn't the original frame.
They worked at benches, and they were considered artists. They tinted photos. That is the original frame of 1942. It was an extremely contemporary glass type frame. Those were my eyebrows, by the way.
That's it. Donna thinks this was neighbors that lived up on the hill on Sherrick. We're not sure.
One of the wedding cakes Jenny did, that's for sure.
June 1st, 1956. That's the women's section. Society and clubs page. There is Mom and the Girls. And it's by Alvin Mattis, the Register's food editor.
That's Denise on the left, and Debbie, Diane, and Donna, and Mom.
I'm going to shoot the copy here just for a second. Yes. Huh. Okay, stop. almost an instructional guide, isn't it? It's almost an instructional guide. That's it.
Remember that? I remember.
Boy, were they glad to get me out of that school.
That cut, by the way, on my thumb right there is from one of your champagne bottles at your wedding.
Yeah, Tommy.
It's about Grandpa and Grandma Gardner's. Read fast.
Now
So there it
blind.
is.
This is a clay hand made by Denise in her kindergarten class. It's about an inch thick and probably 3-4 inches in circumference. This was a thing that they did in the kindergarten classes in those years. This is just a piece of scrap paper almost that we found in amongst our old antique snapshots, and it appears that somebody started a family tree here, or attempted to. Move that up just a little bit, Tom, and just kind of slow, and maybe they can read it in years that are coming far, far away from here now. Might be very important to some of them. Now, Arnold John Liddell, born in Austin, Minnesota. This is Tom B. Liddell speaking. Arnold John Liddell, born Austin, Minnesota, was my dad. His dad, Arnold Liddell, came from the French Dominion in Canada.
Is that his dad?
And no, that's on the left is my dad. That's myself in the middle. On the right is my Uncle Tom, who lived in San Francisco. But Arnold John Liddell, my dad, his father came from French Dominion, Canada, and he settled in Austin for a while and ran a hotel there. Then 7 cousins left the French Dominion, and we were always told that the other cousins moved on south and were all killed in Oklahoma. But many, many years later, a man was in my store told me the sheriff of his county in Oklahoma, his name is Liddell, and there were Liddells all over that area. And this man had come to Des Moines to check into a retirement home, and he said he'd do a little research for me. Later sent me many names from Oklahoma. So evidently they were not killed because they showed up years later, the name Liddell in Oklahoma. Anybody in later years sees this tape and wants to trace this may be valuable to you.
This is on the back of the paper.
Paper turned over. This is more of the research. Well, this is my mother, Carrie Brown, 1893, Casey, Iowa. She passed away November 25th, 1959. She was married in Colfax, Iowa, March 10th, 1915, to my father, Arnold John Liddell. I hope maybe someday, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, this information might help somebody. This is a book we found, and also in these old pictures, about Sam and Frances Brady of the Hale family and descendants. And there's probably, what, Tom, 25, 30 pages in it?
Well,
And we have no idea what it even, who the Hale family even is.
27 pages.
27 pages
There's
of
some
history.
photos, some ugly women.
We have no idea what this is all about.
Trish, watch it. You're unplugging the TV. This is a little preamble to that. Alfred Hale, and then his address is there. In case you send it up. Columbus, Colorado.
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. May 9th, 1962 he did this.
My mother came from this area, Carrie Brown Liddell, and all of her cousins came from the middle part of Ohio also. There's a family yet that lives out around Casey named Ogle, O-G-L-E, and they're cousins of my mother's. Here is a page that tells a little bit about the Ogles in this family tree thing here that we found. Just move it kind of slow there, Tom, and this may interest somebody many years from now.
Book I'm just going to read real quick. It is the family of John C. Hale, continued with births and deceased dates. Family of Joseph L. Hale, which seems to be very long. Very, very long. Family of Marilla Ogle Hale. Family of Letha Francis Hale. Family of Wallace H. Hale. Family of Ruth Hale. Family of Emily Hale. Family of Hiram Hale. Samuel Oda Coughlin. McMahons are in here. Kramers, Godfreys, Grove, Apple, Hale, Maxim, Miller, Lee, Williams, Gaylord, Barnard, Gill, Taylor, Henry. Okay, that's the rest in the back. Mrs. Let's see. Right to Mrs. Fannie Lee, 508 Vincennes Avenue, Florida, Illinois. Not a zip code in here, so this is a very old address. That's it.
Tom, tell us whose hand this is.
Can you tell? Does it look similar anymore?
This is Thomas G. Liddell's hand in kindergarten, once again made out of the clay in the imprint, 1963.
Sure.
Yay!
This is Deborah Elaine's hand in kindergarten, and she today, how old are you today, Deb?
85.
Deb is
She's 33 and she was
Deb is
33 June 1st.
33 years old,
That's
and
Donna's hand.
her hand still looks like that right today. It
That's
looks
Donna's.
looks like that.
Hers does not look like that today.
This is Donna Mary's hand. This is my brown-eyed daughter's hand, and there's her real hand today.
Well, I want to show her hand under there.
This is a note that Diane wrote to Mom, Jenny Liddell, when Laura Ann Liddell was born. And Tommy's going to read it to you now.
It says, Dear Mommy, I almost fainted when I heard the news.
It's just great.
It's just great. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I love you, Diane. P.S. I love Laura, L-A-U-R-A, or Laura, L-O-R-A, too. I'm sure, I'm positive, I think. She was his, this is Grandpa Gardner's in memory of card that was passed out at his funeral. June 2nd, 1887, birthday, passed away October 5th, 1965, Guthrie Center, Iowa. Services were Thursday, October 7th, 1965, Christian Church in Kenora, Iowa. Clergyman, Reverend Morris Bailey. Interment, Richland Cemetery. Casket bearers, Don Gardner, Robert Lefebvre, Neil Hull, Robert Jacobson, Leonard DeWitt, and Tom Kinney.
Raymond J. Gardner.
This is Monday, December 8th, 1969. These pictures, I remember, were shot at the house here on New York, where we are now. It's for sale. Anyway, that's Donna. That was her pre-washed hair. Donna said to turn that part off there, but that was her slicker hairdo. She was in the...
That wasn't slick. That was a Sassoon, and it was in style.
Okay, anyway. They did a cookie thing.
Then,
Packaging fancy cookies for St. Joseph Academy food sale Thursday.
Show that to Norma, Laura.
There's the Christmas cookies they made. There's Laura, upcoming Academy student. If they only knew. She didn't go. Denise,
Valley.
Diane,
Graduated Valley, 1984, May 20th.
and then there's Mom and Debbie.
Such a good looking girl. This is young Tommy.
And that's it. St. Vincent de Paul charity ball takes place. And this is, looking for a date, April 30th, 1967. in the Des Moines Sunday Register. And there's a picture there of all the people at the charity ball. E.J. Malloy, Society Treasurer. Robert Barton Malloy, Treasurer, or I'm sorry, the same one. J. Nelson, it's hard to read upside down, has all the addresses, everything. Francis Damiani, and he was the coordinator. And then there is Mom and Dad. Dad looking rather thin.
Gene McCormick and his wife behind us
We're
there,
having to see him tomorrow.
right there.
Good old Dennis.
And then a group of people at the table. Another shot right in the corner. Got an up-to-date haircut there. Okay. There's charity ball, April 28th.
What do you want,
Charity
Trish?
ball. This one was addressed to E.W. Bacon, which is Father Ed Bacon out there. He must have saved this and gave it to Mom. Okay.
Explain. This is a picture of a frozen waterfall that has a shape of an angel here at the top of it, at the crest of it, that we used to have hanging in our home when we were children, that we all remember.
Mark.
This is a postcard that I sent home from Army training camp in World War II. Bill Liddell and myself, we were together in Camp McCall, North Carolina. And later we were Camp Forest, Tennessee, outside of Tullahoma. And we were jumping in the paratroopers, and Bill broke his neck and was sent home and discharged. And I went on overseas. We just had a little lunch here before calling home. This was the community type building there at the camp, and we were in basic training here at this area. It was a hellhole of the United States of America. This is a C-47, which carried the paratroopers in World War II that all the paratroopers jumped out of. The type of plane made like this is the one that will, with the door off, is what the troopers jumped out of, and that's a postcard that I had sent to my folks during World War II. I was 18 years old at this time.
This is the same ice sculpture Donna pointed at earlier. And right here, you can see that area I'm surrounding with my finger is the Madonna that was in the ice sculpture. Did you guys just discover this stuff, huh?
No, Mom pointed it out to us when we were little. No, it isn't.
We can't figure this one out, so we'll pass
Michelle.
on. March 1955.
That's Mary Lou.
Mary Lou in the background and many little children.
That's Michelle and Denise and Lynn. Looks like Joey's little baby.
Lynn, Denise, and Michelle, Donna says.
With the big
Same
eye.
year, Denise in the middle, right, Donna?
Mm-hmm.
And who is this?
Well, that looks like the twins, Debbie and Diane, isn't it?
Debbie and Diane.
Tom Liddell. Any date on that, Tom?
Yeah, that's January 1965. 65.
1965. Peg and Linda K. Liddell. Denise Liddell.
Birthday party.
What date is it, Tom?
That's
Doesn't
nice.
say.
No, Denise off to school.
All the girls in the window.
And all the girls are in the window. Denise must be going to kindergarten here.
Well, now here's that one.
That's Debbie.
Well, it looks like
Debbie,
Diane on the
Diane.
left and Debbie on the right.
Yep.
Diane and Debbie we have. There were many birthday parties in those years. Off to school. Lake someplace. No parking at any time. Nice looking sign.
That's Michelle and
Michelle and
Diane.
Diane.
Debbie's
Debbie.
with you.
Looks like Don in the background. Another birthday party. Happy birthday again.
March 55.
March
That's Denise's
1955.
birthday.
That's Denise's birthday. Dad, Tom Liddell, and one of his daughters.
Laura.
Looks like
Donna says that's Laura.
That's at
It
this
is Laura.
house.
It
That's
is
Bay
Laura.
window.
Margaret and Jim Freed. On the left is Aunt Hazel, my dad's sister. In the middle Margaret Free, and on the right, Aunt Daisy, my dad's sister. This is Aunt Daisy. She lived at East 13th Street in Des Moines, Iowa, my dad's sister. This is a family dinner at Aunt Daisy's house. My dad's on the left, my mother's on the right in the background, and those are his sisters and brother-in-laws and so forth. This is Joe Liddell, one of those dime store pictures in 1940. This is my dad, Arnold, my mother, Carrie. I think Arnie's behind him, Fran, myself in the middle, Joe and Mary Lou. Looks like it might have been one of my parents' birthdays. Oh, I think this is in Korea again. Army friend, can't remember his name. This is my Aunt Margaret, Neola, Iowa. This is my Aunt Frances and her son John and her husband John, and it's the Carnes family.
Elvis Presley, isn't it?
Oh, it's Joe Liddell trying to look like MacArthur. I don't know. Joe had a lot of pictures taken. This is my dad and mother, Arnold and Carrie Liddell. This is my sister, Mary Lou. This is Camp McCall, North Carolina, where Bill and I was in basic training. I was 18, I see a road on there, the Camp Nightclub. That's where we used to go drink beer. Send you your knife next week. Might find something for Mary Lou. How about a letter from you two bums? Love, Brother Tom. This is Joe and Darlene on the steps in front of my folks' home at 3209 East Boulevard, Des Moines, Iowa. Joe Liddell on the left. I don't know who the other gentlemen are. Mary Lou on the left, my mother Carrie in the middle, and Joe on the right. Joe Liddell. This is Tom Liddell and John Cooper, my cousin's husband, at Lake Tahoe, Reno, Nevada. This is my mother Carrie with Denise and the twins.
March 1956.
March 1956. I think this is my mother's house. This is Tom Liddell and Joe in Joe's new little red wagon. Kind of looks like I took it over, doesn't it? This is Tommy Liddell, Bill and Eileen's son. This is my cousin Moselle Simpson from Newton, Iowa, holding the twins, Deborah and Diane Liddell. I don't know who this is. More birthday parties.
March 55.
March
What
1955.
about the TV?
Looks like all the Liddell kids. I can't tell you, Tom.
Well, that
Isn't that a nice, pleasant smile?
It must be Uncle Bill.
Mary Lou and who, Donna? Who's that? Is that Denise?
yeah, Michelle.
Denise and Michelle? Mary Lou? I don't. Pass it on, Tom. Tom Liddell, Denise Liddell, Ginny Liddell. And who is the other one, Donna? Is that Michelle? I think it
That's
is.
me.
Is that Donna?
Quite a bit younger than Denise.
We think that's Donna. This is my mother Carrie and Joe Liddell and Susie. Aunt Daisy Lysett. September 1963, Clear Lake, Iowa.
It's Mickey Norton.
Donna says this is Mickey Knorr in front of our house on Sherry County. This is Grandma Gardner with little Johnny Hill.
Yeah. You might want to put that on there.
Never mind, Tom. Let's go on.
We know.
It's a tough year for Tom.
Your anniversary.
25th anniversary. Tom,
Urbandale Country Club.
Jenny, Grandma, Diane, Laura, Donna, Deborah, Denise,
Tommy.
Tommy.
And that's Chris and John. You're holding Chris.
Oh, I'm holding
Oh,
Chris.
and
I
Debbie's-
called Chris Tom.
Debbie's holding John.
Debbie's
Oh,
holding
yeah.
John. Diane, Debbie, Donna, Grandma Gardner.
October 1972.
Must have been another bad year for
So I
Tom.
drank how much?
This is September 1968 at Lake Hallis across from our house at 8705 New York. If you look up on the hill, you'll see a big movie screen there. Tommy used to take binoculars and look out his bedroom window, especially when the naughty movies started coming on.
Who, me?
This is Diane's son, Christopher. This is Jenny Liddell, and this was our pet dog Rags that we had for about 17, 18 years. This is I believe this is a family reunion in Minnesota. on Jenny's side of the family.
Left, that's Virginia, mother. Then Diane Holden Chris, Grandma Gardner, Joe Edwards. Who's that lady in the red shirt?
I can't tell you, Tom. I don't
I
know.
don't know the one in the middle. Then it looks like Greg Betts. And Debbie, is it?
No.
No,
Uh-uh.
that's what's
No, this was a long time before that era.
Okay. There's Laura standing in the front, and Marge, and then Dad.
You're in the way.
Yeah, you gotta fix it here. And Dad and Don Gardner. I don't know who the guy in the back is.
Long
So,
time, it went crazy
young man
for a
on the left
while.
with the curly hair is T.G. Liddell, Don Gardner.
Wait
Don't know the next lady, and then Grandma Gardner, Pearl from Minneapolis, Grandma's sister, and it looks like Deb and Greg down at the end of the table.
Yes.
Chris, it's her. Wait a minute.
It's sandwich and mustard.
This is Jenny Liddell. This is Paul and Joanne. Evidently Clear Lake, and that's one of their little children. I don't know which one. This is Doris Huffman, who used to be a neighbor of ours at Clear Lake, and
Later Atkinson.
this is
Bill
a
Atkinson.
gentleman that she married a little later in life named Bill Atkinson. And many years after that, Father Arthur Ring, a friend of our family, bought her cottage at Clear Lake near ours. I think this photo was made when we visited Swan Lake, Minnesota in 1967. This is where Bill Atkinson and Doris Huffman, after they were married, lived at Swan Lake, Minnesota. He says this is the carnival at Clear Lake, Iowa, September 19, what, Tom?
68.
68. This is Bill and Eileen Liddell's mobile home at the Lake of the Ozarks and their dock. This is my cousin Verna from Reno, Nevada when she was back in Des Moines visiting. And these are all my cousins and my uncles on the sofa with her.
Who are they?
The one on the left is, well, let's move this picture on,
All
Tom.
coming out of the same envelope, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Verna Jones,
We're all the same people.
and at this point here she had remarried to a man named Bob, who was a stockbroker in the San Francisco area, and she was living in San Francisco. And this is her sister Dorothy Warwick, who lives at San Jose, California. This is her husband Bob, who was a stockbroker. This is my cousin Dorothy Warwick and her husband Frank Warwick in San Jose, California. And this is Verna and her sister Yvonne. Yvonne Taylor lives in Sheridan, Iowa, married Jimmy Taylor. And this weekend they attended our wedding celebration at the Sheraton Hotel, where Norm and I danced into the night. This is Yvonne and her sister Dorothy in San Jose, California.
Stop.
This is Debbie Liddell, and doesn't she look nice? That's Jenny in the middle, but I don't know who the other two ladies are. This was Kenny Hyman on the left and his wife on the right of me, and we were in Washington, D.C. for President Lyndon Johnson's inauguration, and I think all these are in the Washington, D.C. area. That's at the Unknown Soldiers, and that's the Iwo Jima statue. That's the inauguration parade in downtown Washington, D.C. We stayed at the Shoreham Hotel, and we went to the president's inauguration ball, and the host at our ball was the movie star Gregory Peck, and he was married to a French girl at that time, and she was as homely as a bowling ball.
January 1965.
Take down.